This is another case of entrapment that was actually won, and this one comes out of Bakersfield, California. It's a bit dated. It comes out of 2021, but it was actually uh, he was acquitted finally 3 years later in April of last year, 2024. This is a Kern County jury acquitted a man of charges filed in a child sex sting because it was obvious entrapment. The word of his attorney, obvious. And I want to just read you a little bit about this, also correcting the article and its errors as well. Divyesh Bakta, age 48, was found not guilty of two felony counts brought against him for allegedly trying to meet a minor. Listen up, trolls. This is what actually happens out there, right? So, acquittal in a child sex sting, this is the article now, is relatively rare given defendant's statements to the person posing as a minor are preserved and presented at trial. That's not why it's rare. It's rare because when the police put together a case against you, which they have manufactured a lot of this information, there you are facing 100 years, 50 years, or whatever, and they give you a plea deal of 5 to 10, and you have to look at this. It's unfair, it's wrong, but you have to decide, do I get 100 years or do I get 5 years? This is why they win. It has nothing to do with the evidence being preserved at trial. It has to do with the crookedness of the system that in one judge's estimation said this is not a justice system, this is a plea bargain system. So reading further here, it says defendants often acknowledge they're speaking with someone underage, then continue to engage in sexually graphic conversations. Yes, that does happen, but not always. In cases like this with ICAC, they're the ones that go on to suggest the sex, as this article indicates. Okay. Interestingly enough, another thing we're finding out, according to the attorney and the court, the sheriff's investigator in this case failed to preserve exculpatory evidence. That would be evidence that would show that you were not guilty, and made statements contradicted by others at trial. Just a lot of troubling inconsistencies and deception, the attorney said. The DA's office said in an email that the investigative techniques used in sting operations have evolved over the past few years, providing juries with more evidence. Well, not in this case. Okay? Not in this case at all. Because according to this, in January 2021, Bakta began communicating with somebody on the Grinder profile. He said they were in their 20s and that there was a picture of an adult attached. The other person, was actually a deputy operating a decoy, gave him a number so that they could text. So here, what is the deputy doing on there? Why is the deputy contacting him? And why is the deputy helping him further a crime that he never intended to commit by giving him a phone number? Well, they were in his 20s, or so the picture looked like. Same thing in my case. After several hours of texting, Thompson said Tuesday the deputy told Bakta that they were underage. So this is what they do, remember. They text pretending to be an adult, and then they switch it around. And the police have said, well, we didn't say that we were underage and we didn't say we're an adult. Well, it's an adult only platform. Who would you expect to find there? Bakta, confused, went back to the profile, which was active for 8 days. They communicated and confirmed it was an adult. How do you confirm it was an adult? You look at it. Look at the picture. What does the picture look like to you? He then asked the person he was texting whether it was their profile, and they confirmed it was. So again, police are not allowed, supposedly, to be on these sites, according to what I just posted there in their operations manuals. And if they're going to use an underage persona, it has to be a clearly underage person. That's not what they do. Okay, that is not what they do. Reassured he was still communicating with an adult and doing nothing illegal, Bakta continued the conversation. It wasn't until the eighth day, at which point the deputy made sexually graphic statements. And after much provoking of Bakta to do the same, Bakta wrote one lewd remark. Up until that point, Bakta only talked about meeting, and his statements indicate he was looking for adult companionship. In this case, looking at all the evidence, it was so obvious this was entrapment. He found it alarming the deputy didn't preserve the profile used. You didn't preserve the evidence, or the photos, or the email address attached to it. We don't really know what was in that profile because it was destroyed. The evidence is lost. We're seeing this over and over again in Texas, in Arizona, in Washington State, in Minnesota, in Vermont. We're seeing this over and over and over again in Virginia, where they don't preserve the evidence. So the Ryan Pick's case, they had not preserved the evidence, but Mr. Pick was still convicted for 7 years because the nice officer at least explained what the evidence was. He described the video that they supposedly took. No underage profiles or images of minor are allowed on the app. Oh, this is interesting. The deputy testified he had posed as a 13-year-old on Grindr for 2 months, not a 23-year-old. And he used a baby filter for the photo, but a Grindr employee that they got to testify scoffed at those claims. I didn't know you could get a hold of them. We contacted the legal department 3 times and they never got back to us. No underage profiles or images of minors are allowed on the app, the employee testified, according to Thompson. That content is banned immediately. So, what are they doing about the police being on there manufacturing these things? Apparently, nothing. Because when we've contacted them, Grindr is doing absolutely nothing, presumably because they get free policing. I don't know. Bakta, the man who was convicted, burst into tears when the verdict was announced. He's relieved and wants to put this ordeal behind him. According to his lawyer, in my opinion, there's no possible way you could prove Mr. Bakta knew this person was a minor, and that really is the point. There's no way that you could prove that. So when you're told it's a minor all of a sudden, and you still talk to them, as many of these trolls saying, what are you talking about? Are you doing like I did, saying you shouldn't be on here? That's considered to be lewd and lascivious conduct. That's considered to be grooming, even though it isn't. Even though there's nothing that suggests that. Just like in his case, he's arrested for doing nothing but trying to find companionship. In my case, arrested for doing nothing, for minding my own business and what appeared to be stumbling across a child and trying to help that child get help because it looked like it was trafficking. It looked bad. And I've been hearing so much, why didn't you go to the police? Why didn't you do this? It's not necessarily the case that you're going to run to the police when you have no information. And things get out of control. No one expected to go 2 weeks. You saw in this article the confusion he had. He said, what? He looked at the profile, he looked at the picture, he confirmed with this is you, right? Okay, so I don't get that. How does that make it sound like you're 13? Okay, so this is what police do, and the question is why? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Some of you are saying, well, international Megan's law, blah, blah, blah. Fine. But why are they going out of their way to entrap people and put them through virtue tests? Why are they doing that? Okay. If somebody tried to trick you into committing a crime, you'd be outraged. And yet, many of you are okay with this. It's very interesting how that works. This is Norman Michael Asian for ICAC Unpacked. Have a good day.